Peace, love, and blessings, fam. Johnny Sally here with day number 58 of Wisdom of the Ages. If you've missed the previous recordings, you can catch them, of course, on TikTok, on YouTube at Loyalty Life, spelled Lyfe Legacy LLC. I post them on YouTube too, but that takes you right back to YouTube. So, either way, wherever you feel more comfortable watching it, you can catch it. It was a full 60-day read through, no days missed or skipped. If I forgot to post one on either IG or FB, forgive me, just getting caught up in the day-to-day lifing of life. So we got 2 more days left after this. Again, you can go back and watch them. Anything you see, please comment, like, share. Give me your advice on any other books you might want to see read. I'm most likely going to do the 4 agreements next and the rest of the series because I had no idea it was a full series. I'm also going to be starting to share more sound bowl type of recordings to assist people with different things that they're going through in the chakra system. And if it's connected to the chakras, it's connected to different parts of your bodies. I will break that down in some of the videos. I'll also be sharing some more of the life coach content. On TikTok, I'm going to also adventure into sharing more of my personal life. Most know that I'm pretty recluse. I don't put a whole lot of my business on social media. I even stopped posting my children's birthdays on social media because it becomes a repetitive thing where people post the same things over and over and over again. And for just me, I'm learning to be more intentional and keeping my energy to myself, because folks be wilding out and tripping about AI and things of that nature, but you give the internet all of your information to where they don't have to ask for it. So in any case, day 58, comparison. So That's Who I Remind Me Of by Ogden Nash. When I consider men of golden talents, I'm delighted in my introverted way to discover, as I'm drawing up the balance, how much we have in common, I and they. Like Burns, I have a weakness for the bottle. Like Shakespeare, little Latin and less Greek. I bite my fingernails like Aristotle. Like Thackeray, I have a snobbish streak. I'm afflicted with the vanity of Byron. I've inherited the spitefulness of Pope. Like Petrarch, I'm a sucker for a siren. Like Milton, I have a tendency to mope. My spelling is suggestive of Chaucer. Like Johnson, well, I do not wish to die. I also drink my coffee from the saucer, and if goldfish was a parrot, so am I. Like Villian, I have debits by the carload. Like Swinburne, I'm afraid I need a nurse. By my dicing is Christopher out Marlowed, and I dream as much as Coleridge, only worse. In comparison with men of golden talents, I am all a man of talent ought to be. I resemble every genius in his vice, however heinous, yet I write so much like me. American writer of light verse, Ogden Nash is known for his sophisticated whimsy and satire. Ogden Nash was known for his great sense of humor and his audacious verse, which was often ragged and highly varied, from one-word sentences to lines that meandered for a full paragraph. He won a large following during his lifetime, particularly for poetry that satirized everyday foibles. In this selection, he pokes fun at himself by justifying his weaknesses as they line up with men of golden talents, who are some of the world's best poets. While this poem was obviously written with tongue-in-cheek, nevertheless it highlights the tendency that many of us have to compare ourselves to others. It seems easier to look at our behavior in comparison to others, to judge where we stand in life. Virtually, all our upbringing at home and in school used the comparison method, and most of us were groomed to fit somewhere in the middle, depending on how everyone else stacked up. For purposes of evaluation, the standardized curve was applied to determine where we fit, be it in geography, mathematics, what to wear, and what curfew to obey. Whatever everyone else was doing was consistently used as a barometer to determine what we should be doing. There were school transcripts and social report cards as well. Comparisons as a means of assessment was so prevalent that it is most likely the means you employ for assessing your adult life as well as managing the lives of your family members. Yet, comparing one person to another negates each person's uniqueness and is often insulting to each person individually, and comparison will never lead you to self-knowledge. It is comfortable to search outside oneself for validation if that is what others do. And if approximately 68% of the people are doing it, we might be tempted to interpret that as the right way. We repeat the conditioning of the past in a search out that somewhere for that which resides in here when we continually compare our lives with others. I like this statement by Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism. He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened. When we resort to comparisons of any kind, the most we can hope for is some wisdom. But to become enlightened, we must know and honor the unique creation that each of us is. This is the genius that is never found near the median. Yeah, you can't ascend to your greatness trying to hold steady to what everyone else is doing as the foundation of what's acceptable. Like I keep saying, America specifically, I can't say other places because I haven't been there, but for the most part, America is an open air mental health facility. So if the median is being crazy, then I'm definitely glad to be in my own class with my own class of individuals and peers. Ceaselessly striving toward the highest and widest point on the normal curve and avoiding the narrow ends representing the extremes is, as I am sure you are aware, not the path I think anyone need follow. I'm going to read that again. Ceaselessly striving towards the highest and widest point on the normal curve and avoiding the narrow ends representing the extreme is, as I am sure you are aware, not the path I think anyone need follow. So if I just said America is an open air mental health facility and the wide is the normal of being thrown off and thinking you okay, you still think we should follow that path? Why? Because the creative genius is found in those most distant points away from the median. Jean Piaget is a famous Swiss psychiatrist who researched the ways in which students could best achieve in school. He provided me with an important insight which I have never forgotten. When I was a young doctoral student many years ago, his experiments with school children confirmed that learning and levels of achievement are different for different individuals. In any classroom in which one method of instruction, say lecturing, was the sole means of presenting the material, after an exam was given at the end of the instruction period, the levels of achievement resembled a standardized curve with approximately 2/3 in the C, or average range, 1/4 divided in half in the above and below average D and B grades, 6% divided equally as failures, and higher achievers, F and A grades, with tiny fractions in what are called distant deviations from the center. That is, a tiny fraction are geniuses and a tiny fraction simply absorbed nothing. And people be mad when their children come home and tell them they didn't learn nothing. Or you ask them, what went on in school? I don't know. But this is not what impressed me, nor is it what I always remembered. Piaget then said, if you were to change the method of delivery from, say, lecturing to drawings, then you get the same standardized distribution, a tiny fraction of geniuses and zeros, 6% A and F, 25% D and B, 67% C plus to C minus, But the startling thing is that you now have new people in the genius range and the zero ranges. And when you try another method of delivery with the same group, say small group discussions or video presentations, with each new method of instruction on the very same material, you find new geniuses, new zeros, and a whole new grouping of average. So we are still at the space of trying to teach a fish to climb a tree in school and then still telling the fish that he failed. For example, most boys are bodily kinesthetic. So to have them sit down all day and expect them to absorb everything is just not a part of their makeup. Most boys are hands on learning. They need to move around. Plus, they're children. So why not let them be active and enjoy? No, the reality is school is set up to give children a factory mindset. It was programmed many years ago. There's a book called Trillion Dollar Conspiracy by an individual with the last name of Mars. And he breaks down the fact that the whole entire school system is focused on preparing your child to be able to sit in one place for 8 consecutive hours. Even we know once you get into college, a lot of the information that you learn may be outside of the box of what you learned in grade school, middle school, and high school. But the reality is, once you get that degree, it's not always guaranteed you're going to work in your field. Because when you go to look for a job and they're asking for a bachelor's degree or a doctorate, they just want to know that you stayed somewhere long enough to complete it. Your degree could be in something completely, totally different than the job you're applying for, but you will still get it because that degree signifies you're committed long term. I digress. For me, Piaget's profound conclusion was unforgettable. There's a genius in every single person, and all we as educators, or parents, or directors of our own lives need to do is find the method that will allow that genius to be revealed. Ogden Nash's humorous and satirical poem, "So That's Who I Remind Me Of," reminds you how absurd it is to compare yourself to anyone else at any time. His conclusion reveals the truth of this assertion. Yet I write so much like me, and that is all he could ever do, be himself. Often, in our efforts to fit in and be accepted, we ambush ourselves by looking to see how we compare to others. We have been conditioned since our first days in school, and so it is easy to forget that our own individual genius may not have evolved. You literally keep yourself stuck from evolving, trying to compare yourself to other people and keep up with people who have no inkling of wanting to grow past where they are. No inkling of wanting to keep up with the Joneses and buy the next purse, buy the next pair of shoes, catch up on the next toxic uh, episode of Housewives, or a myriad of things that are put here to distract us. The reality is, we know most people go through these things because life be life, and then life is hard. So people don't want to put the effort in to spirituality because they're tired all the time. They just want to break from life. It's another form of escapism. So it does take a different level of consciousness to intentionally and intently start to move towards progressing spiritually. Again, no slugs, no shots. I understand because I used to be there. But at some point, when you decide you're done with this and you don't want to come back here and play this game, hopefully you make that decision before it's quote unquote too late. Because you know they say we only have a certain lifespan. Continuing on. Often, in our efforts to fit in and be accepted, we ambush ourselves by looking to see how we compare to others. We have been conditioned since our first days in school, and so it's easy to forget that our own individual genius may not have evolved. The idea of comparing yourself to anyone else seems absurd when you know you are a unique individual. And when you align yourself with the method, people, and circumstances that feel just right for you, you know in your heart, as I do when I write or speak or run a marathon or wash my car or brush my teeth or do not need to compare myself my actions with other people to decide how to do them. We are free when we can say, this is my way. What is your way? The way does not exist. I am free when I no longer need to see what I share in common with those men of golden talents. The conclusion is the same one that Ogden Nash reached. Yet I write so much like me. Stop comparing and being composing your life your way. My bad. Stop comparing and begin composing your life your way. Some on my page. To reduce the habit of comparing yourself with others, begin to practice these suggestions. Number one, use your own personal index for evaluating yourself and your performances. Am I content with myself? Rather than, I'm not as good as my sister. Two, when you find yourself in the old habit of comparison, stop right in the moment and catch yourself. Becoming aware is the beginning of changing this habit. Becoming aware is the beginning of changing this habit. I say again, becoming aware is the beginning of changing this habit. Simply put, if you know there's something you need to change, in the moment that you start doing that thing that you dislike or that you know you need to change, in that moment is the time to stop and say, I said I was going to change this. Not follow all the way through with your and let your intrusive thoughts win and then think about it later and then beat yourself up and say, I'm going to change it the next time, and do the cycle all over again. As you were about to say, I guess I'm about average in something, stop and rephrase to, this is how I perform and I'm fine with it. Number three, don't use comparisons with your children unless you expect them in return. Gut punch. Bow. For every time you say all the other children at school are expected to do some household chores, expect to hear something like, no other parents make their kids go to bed this early. Yeah, they will pull it. The habit becomes insidious and will pass from generation to generation unless you stop using comparison as a standard. Change your directions to, I expect you to do your housework and your chores, and it has nothing to do with your friends. And that is also how you begin to break small generational traumas or curses that most don't even realize they implant into their children by their own lack of intent in communication. It's not done on purpose. And number five, if you are not as talented or expert as you want to be in any particular thing, remind yourself that it is not because you are deficient. It is the result of your unique reaction to and experience of this event. Your genius may reside elsewhere, or it may require you to be exposed to another way of learning. Respect your individuality and uniqueness and resist speculating on how you compare. Comparison always puts the control of your life in the hands of those to whom you compare yourself. Simply put, do you. Anything else that anybody else has a problem with about how you do things? You know what you tell them? It's a you problem, not a we problem, not a us problem, not a me problem. Once you begin to develop the fullest capacity of loving yourself and loving everything about yourself, even those things that you don't necessarily like, and you learn to focus on yourself solely and not allow the dictates of social media, no matter which platform, superstars, TV, all of these things to have you trying to live up to the standard of another individual, your life will become a lot more peaceful. I thank you for being here for yourself more than anything. I thank you for loving yourself. I thank you for accepting yourself. I thank you for beginning to change the mindsets that you have towards comparing yourself and feeling deficient because you don't meet up to another standard. As I said a couple of days ago, everybody's path is different. Your path may have a standard that others can't meet, and you don't even realize it because you choose to keep trying to compare yourself to others instead of walking in your truest purpose. I ask that you continue to if you haven't already started walking in your purpose. Continue to walk in your purpose if you are. I ask that you also walk in love, walk in light, walk in peace, and know that you are loved.